You won't believe how quickly life can take everything away from you. One moment, you think you're living the life you always dreamed of, and the next moment, you're standing in the ruins of everything you once called your own. My name is Alina. I live in a small town just outside Chicago. I'm 24 years old, and today I want to share with you the most painful chapter of my life, the story of how I lost everything. If you listen to the end, you'll realize that sometimes pain isn't just about losing people, but also about losing yourself along the way. I grew up in a very simple family. My parents were not rich, but they gave me love and taught me the value of trust, honesty, and hard work. As a little girl, I always believed life was fair, that if you loved people purely, they would love you back. But life was waiting to teach me lessons the hardest way possible. When I turned 19, I met someone who changed my world completely. His name was Adrian. He wasn't just another boy to me. He was everything I thought love was supposed to be. Handsome, kind with his words, and he had this way of making me feel like I was the only girl in the entire universe. When he smiled at me, the whole world seemed brighter. And when he held my hand, I felt safe in ways I never knew before. Our love story began so beautifully that everyone envied us. He would wait for me after college, bring me flowers without any occasion, and promise me a future filled with dreams and laughter. I believed him. I trusted him more than I trusted myself. And when he asked me to move in with him, I didn't think twice. My parents warned me. They said I was too young, too innocent, that sometimes love isn't enough. But I didn't listen because in my heart, I was sure that Adrian was my forever. The first year together was magical. We decorated our small apartment, cooked together, made plans for marriage, kids, and even vacations we couldn't afford. I thought I had it all. But slowly, I began to notice cracks in our perfect little world. He started coming home late, avoiding conversations, and hiding his phone like it was some kind of treasure chest. Whenever I asked, he'd laugh and say I was overthinking. And because I loved him so much, I silenced my doubts, convincing myself that love requires trust. But trust without truth is like a house built on sand. It doesn't matter how beautiful it looks, eventually it collapses. One evening, I remember cooking his favorite meal, waiting for him to come home, but instead of joy, he came back with coldness in his eyes. He looked at me like I was a stranger. That night, he told me he didn't feel the same anymore. Just like that, he walked away, leaving me in a storm of unanswered questions. I begged him, cried, fell on my knees, asking what went wrong. But all he said was, "I don't love you anymore, Alina. I found someone else who makes me feel alive." Those words shattered me into pieces. My entire world collapsed in one sentence. I had left my family, my dreams, and even my identity for him. And now he was walking away as if I never existed. I locked myself in that apartment for days, not eating, not sleeping, staring at the walls, trying to understand how love could turn into betrayal so easily. But my pain didn't stop there. A week later, I found out I was pregnant. I couldn't breathe when I saw those two lines on the test. A part of me wanted to call him, to tell him maybe he would come back. But then another part of me whispered, "He doesn't care, Alina. He already chose someone else." I decided to keep the baby. I told myself this child would be my reason to live, my chance to rebuild. I started working double shifts, saving every penny, dreaming of holding my little one in my arms. But fate was crueler than I imagined. In my 6th month, I had a miscarriage. I remember waking up in the hospital bed empty, broken, my body shaking while the nurse whispered, "I'm sorry, we couldn't save the baby." In that moment, I lost not just my child, but also every hope I had left. I screamed until my throat went dry. I cried until there were no more tears left. I felt like God had abandoned me. I felt like life had stolen everything in a single, cruel sweep. My love, my child, my family's trust, and even my will to live. After that, I had nothing. I sold whatever little we had, left the apartment, and moved back to my parents. But even home didn't feel like home anymore. They loved me, but I could see the disappointment in their eyes. They never said it, but I knew they were asking silently, "Why didn't you listen, Alina? Why did you give everything to someone who gave you nothing?" Nights became the hardest. I would lie in bed, staring at the ceiling, hearing his voice in my head, seeing my baby in my dreams, and waking up to the reality of emptiness. My heart became a battlefield of memories I couldn't escape from. Friends stopped calling, people whispered behind my back, labeling me as the girl who ruined her life for love. And slowly, I began to believe them. I tried to escape the pain by working endlessly. I picked up jobs I hated just to stay busy, just to avoid sitting with my thoughts. But no matter how hard I worked, the silence of my soul kept screaming. There were days I stood in front of the mirror, looking at the girl staring back at me, and I couldn't recognize her anymore. Where was the happy Alina who believed in love? Where was the girl who trusted dreams? All I saw was a broken woman who had lost everything. But here's the truth I want to share with you today. Sometimes, when life takes everything away, it is secretly preparing you for a rebirth. It doesn't feel like it in the moment. It feels like punishment. But deep inside those ashes, a new strength waits to be born. Slowly, I began to find pieces of myself again. Not through another man, not through false promises, but through my own survival. I started writing my pain, sharing my story anonymously online, and to my surprise, thousands of people connected with me. People who were broken too, who had lost their own battles, who felt alone in their suffering. That's when I realized I wasn't alone. My pain had a purpose. It was meant to remind others that even when you lose everything, you can still rise again. Today, as I sit here at 24 telling you my story, I want you to know one thing. Love can betray you, dreams can shatter, and life can be unfair. But you are stronger than the storm. I thought I lost everything, but in reality, I found something even greater, myself. And maybe that's what survival truly means. So if you're listening right now, maybe with tears in your eyes, thinking of your own heartbreak, your own losses, I want you to remember my name, Alina, the girl who lost everything but refused to stay broken. Because if I can survive, so can you. And maybe one day we'll both look back at our scars not as signs of weakness, but as proof that we lived through the fire and still found a way to breathe again.